Welcome back, everybody. Our next guest used to serve as the top Republican on the House Judiciary Committee and someone who we surely miss in the halls of Congress, but perhaps he doesn't miss the Marble Asylum too much these days anymore. I don't blame him. We are lucky to call him a friend of the show. He is former Congressman and current podcast host, Doug Collins. Representative, welcome back to the show.
Oh, man, it's always good to be with you and John.
It's great to have you, and I wanted to ask you, your perception of what happened in the midterms. You're out of Congress, you're out of the Marble Asylum, like I said. A lot of people predicted this red tsunami, and I know that you've talked about this on your podcast, but just give us kind of your overall synopsis of what transpired.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I did just to go about this on the podcast up today, and I put it up because I wanted to give just an honest assessment. I think we got to go back in reality. In elections, candidates matter. And elections, the fundamentals matter. And these are the things that I feel like a lot of our candidates maybe were missing. They depended either on too much of an endorsement, maybe from other Congress people, or maybe even Donald Trump himself. And in the general election, you just saw, just several ideas of where the candidates did not do what I call the basics. The other thing I think that's very important is you have to deal, especially in congressional seats, it matters what you're saying to the audience that votes for you. Now, understand, Republicans won the most votes in the country the other night, but yet we did not gain the seats that we would think reflected it. Why? Because in the individual congressional seats, I think our message and our candidates missed the audience that we were actually targeting that had to vote for them. So, look, a lot of this went into place. I think, we did pick up 14 seats last election. We won the House, which is a victory. I tell you, long term, what it told me was we're in for some very tight elections and tight margins in the United States House, possibly for the next several cycles.
Yeah, and as you point out, the little things matter. It matters in sports and Olympics. It matters in politics. And I thought you really captured that really well today with that podcast. Congressman, there is a lot of talk about the special prosecutor that was named to investigate Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Jack Smith, we've done some reporting on him. He has that expansive view, which is if you don't have someone reporting a crime, go look for a theory that you can prosecute a crime. You see that in his early emails where he pressures the IRS to start what became the Lois Lerner scandal, go after nonprofit groups. There wasn't a complaint that they were doing anything wrong. He just came up with a legal theory called conspiracy to do that. It's a mindset that seems to be creeping into the Justice Department at every nook and cranny. You used to oversee it. How do we get that back to a more balanced approach?
Well, I think it's going to be from an accountability standpoint, and that's going to come from hopefully from the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, the rest of the group, as they begin the new Congress. But this is not new. We've seen this in the last, and John, I know you have, Amanda, we've talked about this. Yeah. We saw new legal theories being put forward in the Mueller investigation. We saw this in other briefs that were filed through Comey and during that time in the Department of Justice, with also the FBI is helping this. And it becomes, here's the part that bothers me the most about what we're seeing is we may not know if you're guilty, but we're going to make you prove you're not. It's almost, if you follow me there for a second, we've sort of returned the whole judicial process on its head, and instead of you being proven guilty, it's now you almost have to prove innocence, and that's just, and it's become more and more popular. You hear it, and this is concerning, guys, because I hear it from Republicans and I hear it from Democrats, and we've got to recoil from this. If a Republican says something about a Democrat, well, if you're innocent, we'll just know it, or if a Democrat says the other thing about a Republican. This has got to stop. The judicial system has got to go back to being blind and carrying out justice in an orderly fashion. No matter who is committed to the issue or is being investigated, they have to know it's a fair process, and we're not seeing that right now.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder what type of logic is behind using the 45th president as a litmus test to see if that judicial method works. But I wanted to ask you, I see that Bulldog football behind you. Let's talk Georgia. I just saw an AARP poll that came out this morning that has current Senator Raphael Warnock just a little bit ahead of his GOP challenger, Herschel Walker. I wanted to ask you what you think is going to happen. I know that President Obama is coming out there to support Warnock on December 1st. Do you think President Trump's going to make it out there?
I don't know, but President Obama coming, that'll pick us up a point or two here in Georgia. So that's, God bless him for coming. Look, this is going to be a tight race, no matter what. And Herschel, let's bear facts. And look, I believe Herschel Walker can win. I believe that they're going to get the game plan out to get the voters back out that he needs to win. I think there's going to be a lot of lower turnout than even we expected because there's really nothing else on the ballot in the state of Georgia. And with the Senate already being decided, you can sense the level of urgency is down a little bit. The concern, if you're Walker, is you were 200,000 votes behind the other Democrats. The other Republicans, coming out of the general election, which means for some reason you got to now go back and try and appeal to those Republicans who either just skipped the race or didn't vote for you. Can it be overcome? Yes, it can. Is it going to be ads on TV and news breaking? No. It's going to be the old-fashioned, are we going to get our votes out? And I'm going to tell you right now, districts like the 9th District in Northeast Georgia, the 14th in Northwest Georgia, the 8th District in Middle Georgia, if these conservative districts don't turn out, and if you look back in the numbers on general election day, they were lower percentages for Walker. He's got to boost the turnout in those areas.
Yeah, such a great point. There was also a large loss to the Libertarian candidate. He can make some of that up if you can flip those Libertarians over rather than having to go to Warnock. Brian Kemp's going to be the quarterback at the state level. He seems to have built a little bit of a political machine for himself. How much can he help Herschel Walker in this process?
I think it could have helped a great deal going into it if they could have ever gotten over, the situation where they didn't campaign together. Remember, right. John, they right. never campaigned together. So, you had two separate spheres going here. And some of that was some old boil over from, the problems of the last couple of years here in right. Georgia. And that's understandable. I think Kemp's folks, it definitely helped. It definitely doesn't hurt. Is it going to be the thing that can push him over? Yeah, I think it could. Because Kemp has been in Georgia politics for 16, 17 years. And he spent 4 years basically running to get reelected. So there is some of that ground game that is there. But again, the big key is how we get those people out in a shortened early vote time frame and then on voting 4 weeks after the general. This is going to be tight. We got to get people out. And Republicans, if you don't want to see the Democrats get full control of the Senate, then Republicans need to get off of their Twitter accounts. They need to get off their Facebook accounts and put their name on an account called a ballot. And then they got to go out and vote.
Yeah, good advice.
Less tweetership, more leadership. I think
there we go.
Should be the MO going forward. Congressman, we appreciate you coming on. I wanted to ask you very quickly before we go. I almost hate to ask, but if Warnock wins, does that mean that Georgia's gone blue?
No. In fact, it's an anomaly. The two Senate seats, just because of what we've seen. In fact, I'd love to come back on another time, and I'll explain to you exactly why Georgia is still a center-red state.
I love it.
I love it. We will absolutely have you back on. Congressman Collins, we surely could not say it like you do. So with that said, you can count on us giving you a phone call to come back on and give us your pre- and post-election Senate runoff analysis. All right, we'll be right back after